Third, lightning round question, dream team. What team structures or hiring trends correlate with successful SaaS companies in the current market?
Sure. I mean, I'll double down on what I said on getting that team that has a good blend of industry expertise and functional expertise. That's always fantastic, right? But the other thing that I believe in as well is making sure that you're hiring high potential entry level hires as well and enabling them, right? Nothing like making sure that they develop that functional and industry expertise in house. And when you have that blend of, both the industry expertise, the functional expertise, but then that in-house expertise and that tribal knowledge, right? As operators, and again, a COO thing, right? I don't want tribal knowledge. I want to document. I want to share. I want everybody to be enabled. But that said, there's something to be said about growing within a company and the level of commitment and energy and focus and drive you get from that. So being able to grow from within is huge. Being able to promote and move what I call athletes, around the organization is huge, right? Those more multi-tool players you have, the better. The more industry specialists, the better. The more functional experts, the better, but you got to find the right blend that works for you and the stage of your company, right? You need to make
Yeah.
sure that you got the relevant industry expertise. You got to make sure the functional expertise, they've seen the right movie, right? Meaning, are you looking for somebody that's taken someone from 1 to 10 million or 10 to 100 million? Very, very different movies. And on top of that, as you're looking at, functional expertise, right? Think about the go-to-market motion and the customers you're serving. Are you looking for, somebody that's run a call center or somebody that's run escalations for massive Fortune 500 customers, right? You can have very experienced people in support and escalations to do either of those roles. But, you put one in the other and suddenly they're a fish out of water, even if they've been in the business for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of thoughts. Just let's double click. One is you think about hiring executives, to your point, having the market experience, the functional experience, and the context experience. And that could also include VC versus PE
Mhm.
is essential. The challenge is you're rarely going to find someone who has a 100% match because they wouldn't be interested in the role.
Yep.
And so I always talk about percent fit versus percent interest. And so how do you hire, where are you going to allow for someone to have this be the next step in their career where it makes logical sense for them to gain some experience, but you're also building on and depending on their bringing relevant experience. So I don't know, 75% fit, 95% interest in trying to make that line up. One of the things you called out, which I'm always interested in, is you call them high potentials. At Microsoft, Salesforce, companies I've been at, they have high potential programs where they bring people on and they identify people, they put them on special tracks, and they give them opportunities and exposure that other folks don't necessarily get because they're grooming them to do exactly what you said, to move around the business into they're more athletes, general athletes versus deep dive functional experts. How do you identify, you've hired hundreds of people in your life, how do you identify those high potential candidates, the early stage high potential? What are some of the key characteristics you look for?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's one thing that I really care about when it comes to the hypos: intellectual curiosity, right?
Mm,
If they're very interested in the why and pushing on the why and going five deep, right, as they say, odds are is they're going to be a really strong employer that's going to drive some improvements, right? I think generally I also, think about people as IQ and EQ. And for
mm.
hypos, I really focus on the IQ because what I realize is you're hiring somebody out of college, they might not have established that workplace EQ yet and know the decorum of being in a workplace. Heck, a lot of people coming out, they graduated high school through COVID. They spent half of their college years remote, right? So of course they might not necessarily have the professional decorum that you're used to. That said, if there's somebody incredibly bright, if they're showing a lot of passion and interest and curiosity, and even in their personal lives, right? It doesn't necessarily have to come out in the interview. It can come out in their hobbies, their interests, and how they live day to day. But if they show that intellectual curiosity, you're going to get those people that really want to dive in and understand and do a great job.
That's great. I'd offer two other things. One I call the X factor, and the X factor is those people who just get stuff done. Right. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world if you're able to work super hard. And that was kind of my mantra is there was always going to be smarter people than me, but they weren't going to outwork me. And so I do think that demonstration of ability to get stuff done. I think the other thing about high potential, which is really interesting for me, is ambition. Like
Yep.
people have to want to get ahead. So they could be intellectually curious, but they could go work in research or be an academic. But if they want to progress in their career, they have to have a level of ambition. Now it needs to be calibrated appropriately, that they're not looking for the next job every 6 months,
Yep.
but they're making it super clear that they're willing to do the work, they're really to learn the lessons, and because they want to move forward. And maybe
Absolutely.
The
Yeah,
last thing for me, I would say, just for any candidate, is are they coachable? So I think that comes down to a bit about some humility, some self-awareness, some self-management. Where do they have experiences of, often I find for early stage professionals, this is they play team sports is a big indicator that they've had to work on a team and they've had to be coached and they've gotten better, but they could be doing that in the symphony or any sort of kind of team environment, and that they are aware that you got to put in the work. You're not going to be the perfect, and you're just going to keep, you know, working, busting your butt to get better, right? And you're going to take on feedback.
absolutely. And yeah, I think the other important thing that you said, just to play on that, the ambition, right? You need to lean into that ambition and play into it. And the more you can get trust out of your employees that you're going to help them get them to where they're going, the better, right? Whenever I have an entry level employee, I always ask them, where do you want to go in your career? And it is totally okay if what you say has nothing to do with what you're doing today or does not
Yeah.
have to, be within this company. My goal
Yeah.
as a manager is to help you get there, and that is rewarding as heck. And when they hear that, they'll run through walls for you.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I always talk to people about not this job, but what do you want in two jobs,
Yep.
right? If you think about in 5 years, what is that role that you want? Well, then how do you sort of chart the course between here and there, and how can I help you? But great. I do think that dream team, either at the entry level or mid manager level, or even at the executive level, is software is a people business, right? It's 70% of our costs are people. All the creativity comes from people. So getting a team, the first team, as Lencioni talks about, as an executive, where they're all contributing and thinking as business leaders, and then all the way down to those the people that you're hiring out of university and just want to help unlock their potential is absolutely one of the most critical things we can do as leaders.